I'm Todd from the Parkers in Portugal, and welcome to episode 2. Today, we are going to show you what we did on our trip to and from the VFS office here in Houston, Texas. Now, I got to tell you, we live within about 2.5 miles of the VFS office, and I know a lot of folks have to travel from all kinds of different places around the country to get to a VFS office. So we literally had about a 3-mile commute max to get there, but we're going to talk to you about what we expected on the drive there and what happened on the drive back. So this is nothing more than just us candidly talking about the expectations for the appointment and the results of the appointment when we got done. And I have to apologize in advance because I didn't frame this up very well. I put a GoPro on the rear view mirror of my Jeep, and I kind of cut Cindy out of the shot. She hasn't seen it yet, but you guys forgive me, but you can see kind of what we discussed and what we were expecting. So enjoy this, and I'll be back with you as soon as this trip is over. Okay, so this is us going to our VFS appointment to apply for our D7 visa. It's about 13 months in the making. And what are you expecting?
Well, so this is kind of your first report card with all of that work.
Yeah, we spent a good 13 months in preparation, and in the last 4 or 5 months we put together all the documents, and we already gone over that in a prior video for you guys, but now we're going to see how well we did. So we're going to get graded.
Exactly.
Today is a test to see how we do.
We knew that we had to choose what kind of visa we were going to apply for. And we knew that we certainly didn't know anything about this process before we decided Portugal would be a great place to move. So what were some of the resources that you used in order to figure out what visa?
Yeah, so one of the most helpful things was a Facebook group. If you're thinking about going to Portugal, it's called Americans and Friends PT, and you have to apply to the group to join, and they ask you a few questions and make sure that you're serious about going to Portugal. But the resources there are outstanding, and Susan Corthes, who runs that Facebook group, has been widely recognized as an authority on all the things that you need to do to get to Portugal. And so we are going to put that to the test. We've seen lists, and these things change all the time. The list
weekly.
Of things, weekly, daily. And so a lot of things can change, and you want to make sure that when you're going, that you've got everything done the way it's supposed to be. For example, just a few weeks ago, they were making everybody who went to a VFS office, and there's only 5 or 6 in the country, that you had to take cash and get a money order to pay for your visa. And like in the last 2 weeks, it's changed to where you can now use a debit card and you don't have to go get a money order.
Or cash.
Yeah.
Where they pointed out you could also use cash, but we'll find out what's true today.
We will.
So one of the things that I think is really interesting thinking back over this 13-month period is that when we started, we were organized. We thought about looking at YouTube videos about people who wanted to do something like this, and we paid attention to the details. You mentioned the Facebook group. We also had gone to the website for anybody who wants a visa to Portugal, and we noticed that it was all very detailed.
Yes.
And it felt so daunting to even start.
Mind-numbing.
So we started making lists, and we started watching these videos, and nothing seemed to perfectly agree. There were people in videos who said they did it all themselves, and it was no big deal.
No, I'm sure you can do it by yourself.
I'm sure you can, but we've not found that to be an easy thing.
Yeah, I also know that some of those people that have done it themselves without the assistance of attorneys or groups, just, winging it on their own. And a lot of people I see on YouTube videos say they got in, no problem.
Okay.
But I know that a lot of them ran into issues. And I see all the time in that Americans and Friends PT Facebook group where people went and they didn't have the right paperwork. And they had to add documents or go back and reapply. And you just, if you're on a timetable, you don't want to do that.
So let's talk about that. So how long did it take us to get this appointment?
So I applied, went to the VFS website and tried to get an appointment in May. And it was the very first time I'd ever tried to get an appointment.
Okay.
And I logged on, and the first appointment that was available was September 29th.
Whoa. So when you applied in May, or you went online in May to get an appointment, did you have it in your mind how long it would take you without knowing anything? What
I
did
didn't
you
know.
think?
I thought, I was looking, I figured that we'd probably have an appointment in a month or two.
Yeah. So this is really a big deal. So when we talk about not having all your ducks in a row, if we had waited from May till the end of September
To try to book our
to
appointment.
get an appointment, then if we'd messed it up in September,
Yep.
it would have taken us another X number of months
3 or 4
to
months.
even get an appointment.
Yep, and our plan is to be in Portugal in January, and we were fortunate that that September date, today, September 29th, was perfectly timed, because your visa, once it's given to you, is valid for 120 days. So you have 120 days from the time it gets approved to the time you have to be in Portugal, because if you don't get to Portugal in that 120 days, the visa is invalid and you have to go through the whole process again.
So we mentioned that when we went online, it was in May, we get this appointment for September 29th, and then suddenly they canceled a bunch of appointments.
Bunch.
And what dates were those? That was like from October?
Yep. So there was a thing they were saying that because of the overwhelmed nature of the VFS application process, they were canceling appointments in October and November. And I've been looking at that Facebook group, and people are saying they are literally today logging in to the VFS site 4 and 5 times a day, weeks on end, just looking for an appointment, and they are hard to come by. So if you're considering doing this and you're really getting serious about it, make sure that you get on that computer as soon as you can to get that VFS appointment.
Absolutely. And full disclosure, when we started seeing, once we realized we couldn't come in until September 29th, it was months in the making, we decided to use an in-country attorney.
Yes.
And what was your thinking on that? Obviously, you have some information you'll supply to people about that specifically.
Yep.
But what was your thinking?
So having someone in Porto as our immigration attorney has been a godsend. And I'm not going to give any specific referrals or recommendations because you're just going to have to go out and find your own. But I would recommend that, and the legal advice we're getting has been amazing, and it's also helped us make sure that we have all of our documentation in order. The attorney we're using created a Google Docs folder, and we were able to upload everything that we had as we were getting it. So we scanned it, we uploaded it, and got it to them. And we were told this needs to change, this is good, this needs editing. And another thing, you have to write, for our appointment today, you have to write a personal letter.
That's right.
And so we wrote these personal letters, and we thought we killed it, right? Like, oh, we got this. And so the attorney says, you might want to leave this out, you might want to add this. So, I mean, there are specifics. So if you're doing it and you're winging it on your own, and you get there,
and it takes you months.
It takes you months. And one of the things that we had written in my personal letter could have raised a red flag about the type of visa we were going on.
Where you're being heartfelt and you're sharing your heart with them, because we're so excited about this opportunity. In fact, it could have worked against us.
It could have.
Rather than just registering as heartfelt.
Yes, so I would recommend getting legal counsel, legal advice, especially on the immigration side.
It's not cheap though.
It's not cheap, but you know what? What's more expensive is going through this process over and over and over. And if you're delayed, like, you have to rent an apartment or purchase a home in advance
of this
VFS appointment for you to even be considered for residency. And if you have done that and then you get delayed and delayed and delayed, you're paying rent or a mortgage payment on a housing in Portugal that you're not even going to step foot in.
No, and you're paying wherever you are as well, so that double pay period is going to extend. So you can ask yourself, what does it really cost you if you don't get something right?
Exactly.
It can be extraordinarily costly.
We're going to find out. We've loaded our packets that I went over in a prior video. If you guys haven't seen it, subscribe to our channel.
Check it out below.
Check it out and see what all we put in the packet and how we had it all packaged up, ready to go. And we are headed right now to the downtown Houston VFS. And we're very fortunate that we live in Houston.
That's right.
A lot of people have to fly from all over the place. I've been in communication with a couple that just got there G7 visas, and they lived in Kansas, and they had to fly into Houston to make this VFS meeting here. So we're driving to it. It's a corner of Texas Avenue and Main Street, and we're going to show you guys how we're getting there on another video that's shooting out the front of the Jeep right now.
You know, it's funny because we realized that we needed all of our documentation in order to be prepared for this. But I don't think that we ever could have imagined the things that would take so much extra time. For example, I noted a minute ago that you started getting this appointment back in May, right? And you also started the process of finding an apartment, the process of opening a bank account. There were so many things that you did in advance. What were the things that we really didn't have in line, even with an immigration attorney, even starting early? What were the things that almost came up to the moment, even with all these months?
Yeah, even with all that advanced work, one of the things that was most difficult was opening a bank account over there. And it is difficult to do. They used to allow, a couple of years ago, this is another thing that's changed. A couple of years ago, you could open that account remotely, online. And now you have to either be in country or you have to have signed power of attorney to allow someone to open it. And once we opened it, we still had to send a document with a wet signature to Portugal, and it took almost 2 months for that document to get there. Then it took another month for the money to transfer, so it was a long process.
And that was with help.
Yep.
And so we really came up to within the 2-week window of our appointment.
We did. We did.
Even doing everything incredibly far in advance. So that was one thing. There was another thing that came up kind of to the last minute. There is a real process in place about renting. You mentioned residential in Portugal.
Yes.
We rented an apartment, and we rented from our perspective from an individual, but actually it was from a company. So there were some specific things that had to happen.
All right, here we are, 1001 Texas Avenue.
We're here.
Heading into the garage. I hope we're going in the right one.
I do too. Well, at least you're going into the entrance of something.
But here we are, and we'll report on how it went when we get out. Okay, so we just got done with that. And
so what time is it?
It is 3:30. So we were in there.
1:30.
What? Okay, sorry. It's 1:30.
Yes.
We got in there at 10:30 for an 11 o'clock appointment. So we were there for 3 full hours.
So how long did it take? We got there, and they took us right in, and we sat down. They told us how they would call us. There were how many people in the room? There
were probably 15 people. It looked like there were 4 or 5 different places where they were talking to people at the counter.
Little stations.
And most people were there as couples, and we just had to wait a little while, but it is a time-intensive process, and they look at every piece of paper, and they make sure everything is done right, so it takes a little while. But I will tell you this, I learned something.
Okay.
They have a metal detector. Do not walk in with a pocket knife.
Great point.
You can't get in with a pocket knife.
Isn't it funny that we were so detailed about really listening to what everyone said about their appointments? And some people said that at some locations around the country, you couldn't bring a bag if you were a woman. But at the Houston location, you absolutely can.
You could.
But we didn't hear anybody say anything about a pocket knife.
No.
So I think that is a really good tip. Was there anything else that surprised you, just first impressions? Anything that surprised you in your experience?
You know, we went over prepared.
Okay.
We took a lot of stuff, like we had a tax return that they didn't ask for. Our Portuguese background check that we signed and had notarized wasn't asked for. So there were a few things that we had, but it's always better to have it, not need it, than the other way around.
Also, you had made sure that every single piece of paper was in a folder that was labeled, and you had everything so precise. It was so beautifully done. Everything went in the packet. But you learned that you can't have any staples.
Don't staple.
Don't staple any pages.
We got yelled at a lot because every single document I had was stapled, and we had to pull staples out of everything, because what they do is once you turn your paperwork in, they run it through a scanner, and they scan the copy of everything so that the originals get sent off to DC.
And let me just clarify, there was no yelling. Actually, you had the best guy that you worked with. And you guys worked together really well.
It was an excellent experience. So if you're going to VFS, don't sweat it. they mentioned to me when I was at the window that this is the busiest VFS office
in the country
for Portuguese visas. So it is full. In fact, we met another couple that was sitting next to us that were going to Portugal.
Absolutely.
And it was a great experience. So you can't take your phone. Your phone can go in with you, but you can't have it on. You can't take a phone call. You can't take pictures.
Right.
You got to go through a metal detector.
Right.
It's sort of like going through TSA to get into the office.
And very, very time consuming. So I think we call it practicing our Portuguese patience. And I think you may have the same experience, but overall, outstanding and really wonderful staff.
Yep.
I also noticed that when people didn't have a document that they needed, that group was perfectly happy to print one out.
Yep.
They were happy to make copies for us. They took pictures of some people who didn't have the right pictures.
Yep.
And we did learn from the other couple that were going to Portugal, your picture has to show both of your ears.
So if you're a female, your hair has to be behind your ears so that you can see both ears, which was not on any document.
Nope, I didn't see that anywhere.
And this might be one of those idiosyncrasies that's specific to a location.
Sure.
But for us, the couple in front of us had great passport photos, but her ears were not visible, so they had to redo it. Luckily,
again,
ours
they'll do
was
it
good.
for you, and they'll do it for you.
But
and
they'll charge you
a small fee for everything that you have added, whether it's copies, whether it's another set of documents, whether it's a picture. But they will do that, so you don't lose your place in the line.
But we walked in with our paperwork in this, and we each had a folder, and we each had all our documents, and it went extremely smoothly.
Yeah, it did. I was amazed.
Don't fret the VFS. You do have to give up your passports. They mentioned that the time for approvals has reduced dramatically in the last couple of months.
He did.
And he said that that's specifically due to the fact that you have to give up your passport. So don't fret that. And you can always get a second passport if you need one to travel. So you don't have to worry about giving them up. So overall, it was great.
Great experience.
And we'll do a little bit more at a later time on another video about the specifics of the VFS experience. And hopefully you guys learned something from this, and don't sweat it. Put it all together and enjoy the adventure. It's part of the journey.
It's part of it.
And this is just the end of the first phase. Now we've got the phase of getting all of our shipping stuff done and getting over there. And then the next phase will be on to residency, and that's going to be its own pile of stuff. So, but stay tuned to the channel, and we hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon. Okay, welcome back. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It literally was just free-form, free-flowing comments about our experience at the VFS office. Now, in our next episodes that we've got coming up, I'm going to show you guys kind of how we compiled the data, what we pulled together, what we did in terms of having our information organized for the VFS appointment. So stay tuned for episode 3 of The Parkers in Portugal.